Good morning, Ugly Mug marketing friends and followers. Welcome to another edition of Ugly Mug Marketing Coffee Chats, the live show where we drink our coffee, reaching for mine now, and we talk about marketing, leadership, and everything in between. My name is Hannah Balliet, and I am the Director of Communications and Teaching here at Ugly Mug. And today I am joined by a familiar face, y'all, none other than Alex Bjork. Alex is the fearless leader of our digital marketing department. And today I've invited Alex to join us for a really interesting show. Alex has been with our team for a little over 2 years, and he is an absolute wealth of knowledge when it comes to digital marketing. Alex works alongside business owners and marketing professionals across various industries. Shout out to all our home services clients, because that is definitely one that Alex and I share a love for. But Alex is here to dive into the boost post button, why you should not be pushing the boost post button, and really talking about why you should invest in learning Meta Ads Manager. Y'all, seriously, buckle up. This is going to be a really, really good conversation. So welcome to the show today, Alex.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Quite the intro. Tough to follow up on that. But no, super excited to be here. I completely agree. I think it's a super interesting topic. I think it's a topic that a lot of business owners, a lot of even marketing professionals don't necessarily know too much about. So I think it's super valuable and ready to dive into it. So
yeah, I love that so much. Hang on one second. I'm going to see if we can make sure we're popping up on Facebook too. It looks like we had a little bit of an error on getting connected, but I think we're up and live on Facebook now too. So sorry for those of y'all if you are just tuning in. We were having a little bit of connection error on Facebook, but looks like we've been up and going on YouTube and LinkedIn. So awesome. Glad we didn't get too far into our conversation before I noticed that. So
Facebook thinks it's Friday too. Facebook's trying to get out for the weekend.
Guys, I was telling Alex, I woke up this morning and I was like, something's feeling off. I got to the office, I forgot my laptop, and it's just been one of those days, but we are powering through. We are chugging our coffee and we're powering through. So without further ado, let's jump into things. Alex, let's start with just like very basic level. What is the boost post button? And then follow up to that is, what is Ads Manager? Just very basic without even comparing the two. What are those?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think that's the first thing, is recognizing that there's a difference. I feel like if you were to ask a lot of business owners, marketing professionals, if you were to say, hey, have you put money behind something on social media before? They would say, yes, I've run ads. And I don't think that a lot of people recognize that there's a difference between using Ads Manager and hitting that boost post button. So that boost post button, most of y'all that are watching are probably familiar with it in some way, but that is, if you're interacting as your page on Facebook, and let's say you put a post out yesterday, it always has that nice little blue button at the bottom that says boost post. You click on that, you can put in how much money you want to put behind it, how long, that kind of good stuff, and it will put your message out there on Facebook. Ads Manager is a little bit more complex. Again, not getting too into the weeds on things, but that's where you can get a little bit more detailed on your targeting, things like that. But that is going to be a separate platform, I guess you should say, outside of hitting that boost post button, where you can get a little bit more specific on the objective that you're trying to reach with this content and who you're reaching at the end of the day as well.
Yeah. I think a lot of people who are unfamiliar with the options that they have for advertising and clicking boost post versus actually going Ads Manager, they love the convenience, right, of the boost post button. And it's so tempting to want to click on that versus actually going in and crafting a custom ad, building out some of those custom audiences that you were mentioning that you can do within Ads Manager. And it's really hard to decipher the value, because for a lot of people that we work with, they might be on the marketing team, or we also have this other handful of people that are not on the marketing team. They are a solopreneur. They are the marketing team, the photographer. They are the CEO. They are the chief financial officer, right? They're wearing a lot of hats. And so when you see that boost post button, there is a lot of temptation to want to click on that out of convenience. But what happens is they're sitting there and they're like, praying and hoping and wishing that that is the thing that is going to bring their business some insane amount of revenue, or that's going to be the thing that really helps them catapult into the right audience that they're looking for. And oftentimes we find that it's not. And
Right.
I really feel like that kind of leads into my next question of why should business owners or people that are handling the marketing for a Facebook page or excuse me, marketers, why should we be intentional about creating our ads within Ads Manager versus clicking that boost post button? I know you touched on it a little bit when you're talking about the difference between the two, but really ultimately, like, why should we do that instead of just clicking the boost post button every time or every now and then when it feels convenient to get our messaging out?
Yeah, absolutely. I think the big thing that it comes down to is being more strategic on social for your business. I think that's like the ultimate word that we can dial this probably entire conversation into at the end of it is being more strategic. I'm not trying to say that hitting the boost post button is the worst thing in the world and you're not going to get anything from it. Facebook, don't take this stream down because we're bashing on the boost post button. But
I know, right?
yeah, right. But no, hitting that boost post button, it will put your brand out there. It will get you some eyes. But what happens after that? Like, do you know who clicked on that? Did they follow up on anything? Are you able to track those folks? That's where we start to lose a little bit more of the strategic abilities that we have on the Meta platforms. And Ads Manager, even though it is technically a separate platform that you're going into, it's all run through Facebook and it is very learnable. It's not necessarily rocket science. Once you get in there, there are just a lot more tools that you can play with in there. And so, you can build out custom audiences, you can retarget folks on there. And then when we talk about the trackability side of things, you can run specific objectives for lead generation, for conversions, for event responses. You can do a lot more things on Facebook that give you a lot more data that you can use for your business. If I hit boost post, I can see how many people saw it, maybe how many people clicked on it, and that's it. Right? That's the information I got, which is
really
great.
like it leans into those like vanity metrics oftentimes, right?
Sure.
Because it's like you posted something and maybe really like let's talk a little bit about objectives here because I feel like that's really relevant. People might hear that term or they might be like, oh, you can do all these extra things in Ads Manager, but what does that mean for my business? Like ultimately, if you're like scheduling a post, let's say you have an event coming up for your business or you're hosting an open house or something like that. Let's say you go and you post about that on your Facebook page. Like Alex was saying, you might be able to see how many people clicked on it, or you might just be able to see how many people commented, and shared. Are you actually able to capture meaningful data and information like someone's email address or phone number or the zip code that they live in if they're interested in attending your event? Or are you able to actually track ticket sales? If it's something that people are paying for, are we able to capture that information or measure that success? More often than not, what we're actually measuring and all the data that gets sent back to us is data that really isn't meaningful to our business. Ultimately, if you're a business owner or marketer, you're saying, how is Facebook helping me make more money? And when you click that boost post button, you really can't see that, right? Like
exactly. Yeah. You're seeing the number of eyes. And no matter what kind of business you are, if you throw $100 behind a boosted post, yes, you're going to get a lot more eyes on that post, right? That's Meta's job is to make sure that they get you a number that looks really attractive, right? A number that it's like, wow, this many people saw my ad. It's like, okay, that's great. But then what? And outside of more than just the dollar and cents, in Ads Manager, you can dial into the placement of ads. You can see like how many people saw my ad on Instagram stories versus Facebook feed. And then you can use that information to then even dial in your day-to-day marketing. If you see that a bunch of people are interacting and clicking on your stuff in Instagram stories, your ad on Instagram stories, it's like, hey, maybe I need to be a little bit more active on stories on Instagram and just our day-to-day. So you can take it so many different ways in the nitty-gritty of like, how do I use this for my business as a whole? But like you said, Hannah, I think ultimately what it comes down to is like, I'm spending marketing dollars. What does that bring back to me in dollars and cents?
Yeah. And it can be frustrating when you do hit the boost post button And let's say you put that $100 behind it, like you said, and then now you're asking yourself, now what? And
Right, right,
nothing came from it, right? You're not
right.
seeing any more ticket sales for your event, or you're not seeing any more people purchasing something on your website, or you're not generating more appointments or booked jobs, right? Depending on your industry. And
Yeah,
it can just be really, really frustrating. But one of the best things I think about ads manager is the ability to really dial in your audience. Like if you are
yeah,
watching this and you have click boost post, typically there's going to be some detailed things that you can add, like things that they're interested in. You can also add in a little bit of geographical region targeting as well. But there are far more tools or far more data that you can kind of sift into to really hone in on your true ideal target customer and building an audience filled with those people. So I want to talk a little bit about the audiences that, very broadly speaking, might be beneficial to someone who is watching this. They go in ads manager, they're setting up their campaign for the first time, they're deciding not to hit boost post. Like, what are some of those key foundational audiences that we might want to set up for our brand?
yeah, absolutely. So it's pretty fascinating once you get in there, the amount of things that you can dial into when it comes to your audience. I would say some of the most common ones that we use on a day to day is going to be things like you can create an audience of just people who like your page. Obviously, those folks are probably
Yeah.
seeing a lot more of your organic content on a day to day basis, but those folks you can create in a certain time frame who's engaged with my content. So let's say
Yeah.
Ugly Mug puts out a post and Hannah, you share it, and then your whole family sees that, you know,
Mhm.
who are those folks, right? So they are familiar
Yeah.
with the brand, they see it on social media, but they don't follow the page. So I can say,
Mhm.
hey, everybody who's engaged with our content in the last 30 days, in the last month, maybe it's people who have watched a video, a certain video that we've put out, video
Yeah.
viewers. You can get as specific as I want to only target people who have watched 100% of these videos. And you can go in
Yeah.
and dial in
And
just those folks.
but dive into why that might be important, because sometimes when we hit boost post, especially if it's
Right.
a video, it'll say you got these amount of video views.
Right.
But
Right.
tell us a little bit about sometimes, because I know it's like sometimes it's only like a 3-second view,
Exactly.
that it's
That's
counting.
Facebook counts a view every 3 seconds. So it's really tough to those numbers seem very inflated, right? And at the end of the
Yeah.
day, if I want to go in and retarget folks who have watched 100% of the video versus just anybody who has watched any clip of it, I would much rather put my money behind somebody who has been fully invested in watching that video versus somebody who is just
Yeah.
scrolling. Their kid started crying and their video was just kind of playing and they watched it for 4 seconds and then they kept scrolling.
Yeah.
I might not
Yeah.
want to target that person. I want to put my dollars and cents behind people who have invested in viewing my content before. So I
Yeah.
think the video viewers is interesting. And then there's a whole nother bucket called lookalike audiences that we can then dial into. And what is really cool about that is we can take any of our custom audiences that we've set up and we tell Facebook, hey, go find me more of these people. So it'll look at
Yeah.
all of the traits, the habits, the interests of people who like your page. Let's say I want to create a lookalike audience for my page likes audience.
Mhm.
Then I'll tell Facebook, hey, go create a lookalike audience. It'll find folks who are just like this bucket of people who already like my page.
Mhm.
Go find me more of them, right?
Mhm.
If people like my ugly mug page, go find me more people that act, that engage just like the folks that are interacting with all of my ugly mug content on a day-to-day basis. That way you can start to grow that base a little bit more. So a lot of different
Yeah.
directions you can go. Another one that I've been starting to use a lot more recently is downloading email lists, and you can upload that as a custom audience into Facebook as well. And it'll
Yeah.
match the email address with people's profiles. And that's a super powerful tool, especially if you have been blasting out emails. Boom, target them with the same offer on social media, right?
Yeah. That's such a great, I love that you said that, because that's such a great point. So often, I think we were talking about it in our team meeting actually recently. We were talking about the number of touches that it takes for someone before they actually make a decision.
Yeah.
And I could go off about 5 different directions with this comment, but we were talking about how that number has increased from like 7 to 11 now, average amount of touches that it takes for someone to actually take action.
Right.
That's a pretty big jump in the
It
number of
is.
times that someone needs to see your brand, your company, your business before they ever decide that they're actually going to make that purchase. But what
Yeah.
Alex was just mentioning was, hey, I've taken my email list of folks who I'm actively nurturing and sending offers to, but now I'm actually going and I'm turning around and I'm making sure that those people on my email list are also seeing my ad on social media. That is
Yeah.
crucial. We cannot put all of our eggs in the social media basket, right? We
Right.
might need to be actively using our email list, or we might need to be showing up on Facebook, but maybe we also need to be doing direct mail, right? We don't need to
Mhm.
just be focusing on social or just on PPC or SEO or just on traditional marketing methods, whatever they may be. We need to have a good mix of all of
Yeah.
these things and make sure that we're showing up in multiple places that target audience might be showing up in. And
Yeah.
there's tons of data and places that we can go and figure out where those people are hanging out. I know we're talking about
Yeah.
social media specific, so I will again go down that rabbit hole. But there's tools like Statista, or you can even
Yep.
look on some of the Meta pages. Give us a little bit more insights on who
Yep.
the majority of their users are, and then you can determine, well, who are my people? And is it the right fit to be hanging out on Instagram and Facebook? Or should I be spending more time on LinkedIn? Or do I need to be running ads on a streaming service like Hulu? Or should I be, running an ad on the not paid version of Spotify? You can determine
Right.
those different places that you need to show up in. But
Yep.
I just really love that you brought that ability to upload our email list. You can also do the same with phone numbers too, correct?
Yeah. Yep. Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
Names, phone numbers, all that good stuff. Upload it, upload it,
Yes.
upload it. Yep.
The caveat, though, I will say with both of those are the person needs to either have that phone number tied to their Facebook account, right? Or it needs to
Yep.
be that email address that they use to log into Facebook in order for
Correct.
delivery.
Correct.
But it still is valuable. Like, I do
Definitely.
still believe that it can work. And then, as Alex mentioned earlier, creating a lookalike audience of those people too. It's
Yeah.
essentially going and taking your warm list of people who kind of already know you, like you, or people that already trust you. If that's your customer list, those are people
Yep.
that already trust your business. And so then going and creating a lookalike audience so you can find more strangers that look like that
Mhm.
those folks. That's what that's ultimately what we want to do. We talk a lot about the natural progression. Alex, do you want to talk a
Yep.
little bit about that and kind of how that ties into social media right now?
Yeah, yeah, no, absolutely. I think that's one of the biggest misconceptions now is people will post something on social media or pour money into it and they're like, "Oh, I didn't get any sales off of this." And it's like, "All
Mm,
right, well, who are you speaking to?" Because in order
mm,
for somebody to buy your product, they have to see your brand more than that, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 times, right? And so that's
yeah,
where, like what you said, being effective on more than just one channel, more than just one platform in your marketing is super powerful because everybody starts off as a stranger, and your job is to make sure that they try to move to a friend next. They're not going to go from a stranger to becoming head over heels for your brand overnight, right? You kind of have to build that
yeah,
trust throughout the circle. So we talk about moving a stranger into a friend then into a customer. Once they're a customer, then you turn them into an evangelist for your company. And so that could probably be a whole nother webinar conversation. I know that we talk about that a lot at Ugly Bug, but that
yeah,
process doesn't happen overnight, right? And I think that a lot of people speak to just turning friends into customers. They're just trying to get like that first dollar from someone when you have to focus on that entire circle, right? You have to speak
yeah,
to people who don't know your brand sometimes. You have to speak to people who have used your product and you want to keep them coming back, right? So there's a lot of different
yeah.
messages that you need to get across in your marketing.
Yeah, and that kind of brings me back to this topic of utilizing Ads Manager to build these custom audiences, because the audiences that we've mentioned today, people who have already watched your video, people who are on your email list, people who are already engaging with your ads or posts, building an audience and saying, hey, Facebook, go find me all those people on my email list. Go find me all those people who are engaging with my content. Go find me all those people who are already watching my videos. Those are people who are already friends of ours, right? So our offer that we're going to be delivering to those folks might look different than the offer that we're giving to somebody who's like a total and complete stranger to our business, right? And so let's start talking a little bit about those offers or those campaigns or those ads that you're running. It can be to someone who's at any point in that circle, but I feel like the majority of ads probably that you're going to mention are going to fall into the category of people who are already our friends. That means they know and like our business, or people that are customers, meaning they already trust our business. They've already given us their money at least one time. And we're working on turning them into an evangelist, somebody who rants and raves about our business. So tell us a little bit about some of those top, 3 or so campaigns that you're actively running on Facebook and what you're seeing from the perspective of Facebook, and that here's how it's performing, but what does that actually mean for that company's business?
For sure. So let me talk, I guess I'll give one example of what we can focus on early on in that process. So our strangers or our new friends, kind of building that trust with your brand. Something that I feel like all of us at Ugly Mug like to utilize is what we call social proof. You think about buying something on Amazon. What's the first thing that you do? I don't even look at the picture of the product. I go look at the reviews, right? And so if you have 100%. Good testimonials, good reviews that you can post on your socials and turn those into engagement campaigns, traffic campaigns, that stuff is super powerful. So for example, like UL Coleman, we work with a apartment complex up in Shreveport, Louisiana, and they went through a full rebrand, a refresh of the buildings, of their brand, new name, everything like that. So what we focused on a lot was, hey, these people have an image of what our apartment complexes look like and what we're about. We need to completely change that. So those first couple of people that moved in to our new buildings, let's make sure that we get some good testimonials, we get some video content from them, and we put it out there and we start to build trust with those folks who are early in the circle, right? Who have not given us money, but we need to make sure that they have an understanding of who we are in the community. So that's kind of an early example. As we start to move into some of the latter ones, lead generation is something
before you go, sorry, before you jump into that. So you're talking about utilizing those testimonials. What objectives might you be selecting for that within Ads Manager? So when you're going in and you're building your ad and you're saying, all right, I'm going to use this testimonial and I'm going to use this copy, but what objective might you recommend selecting, or what did you use for those ads?
Yeah, absolutely. Typically speaking, if you are a newer brand or you're just starting out and doing some ads on social media, things like that, brand awareness is probably going to be one of the most popular ones. You can run that. You can try to get basically what you're doing there. You're trying to get your reach as large as possible. You are trying to get as many people's eyes on your ad as possible. And that is super powerful, tying back to what we talked about earlier, because then we can retarget those folks who have seen our ads, seen our content before. We can retarget those folks with different campaigns down the road. That way, if Hannah has not anything from my company and I put a brand awareness campaign out there with a testimonial review, she sees that. Then a month later, I retarget her with like, hey, here's something else about our company. And you just keep working them through the circle, right? So brand awareness, you can do engagement, that'll encourage folks, like, share, comments, all that kind of good stuff, which is always powerful. Traffic, if you have a specific landing page, but that's going to be a little bit more as we work into some of the offers. And once you want them to have a little bit of a different call to action. So,
okay, cool. That's just helpful, because I'm like, if someone goes in there and they're like, all right, I have a testimonial, but then they're looking at the objectives in the setup process and they're like, I'm pretty sure that's step one, right? When you click on create, that's what it pulls up. It's like, well, wait, what do I click on? Okay, so brand awareness, engagement, and then website traffic as well. So, traffic. So pushing people directly to that landing page, something that's just easy. Like the call to action, I'd imagine too, when you're creating this campaign in particular, is not really anything crazy. It's probably like, click here to learn more, or check out our page, or like, it's very low entry level work on the actual user side.
Yeah, that is not the spot to be pushy, right? That's not the spot to push a sale. And I feel like that going back to what we talked about earlier, everybody's like, hey, buy, 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 buy. It's like, even
Mhm.
if you have something that's general brand awareness about your company, your call to action doesn't still have to be grabbing for money. Like if somebody clicks on your stuff and is interested, they'll find their way to giving you money. You kind
Yeah.
of just have to let that happen and build that trust. But it puts a sour taste in a lot of people's mouths if you are asking for money all the time, right out the get go. So,
Yeah.
yep,
Yep.
yep,
Yep. Okay. So let's go into another campaign. I know you mentioned lead generation,
yeah,
and I really want to get into
yeah,
this one because I
yeah,
know how much you and I both love lead generation campaigns. So
yeah.
tell us what lead gen is.
Yeah, so lead generation, everybody's probably seen it on Facebook or Instagram, but essentially it looks like a regular ad campaign. And once you click on that call to action button, which normally says get quote or learn more, whatever that button says,
Mhm.
then it pops up what's called an instant form. And in there, it'll have various fields of information that then the prospective client can fill out. Most of the time, you're collecting their phone number, email, name, zip code.
Mhm.
Maybe there's a custom
Yeah.
question that you want to ask. Maybe it's like, hey, how soon do you need this product? Obviously, it's going to be very different for everybody's industry. And
Yeah.
so everybody's probably seen some form of that on social media. But that's super powerful because A, you're collecting all of that information and now you own that lead.
Mhm.
So if you have an email
Yeah.
list, boom, you're throwing the email right into that list, right? If you have a team of customer service reps, or if you guys are on the sales front and you want to follow up with that person, boom, that's your lead to follow up with, whatever your sales process
Mhm.
looks like. And once again, that's probably another conversation that we could spin off and have, is like making
Yeah.
sure that you have a plan to follow up with those folks, because a lot of folks
Yeah.
don't. But no, lead generation as a whole, obviously Hannah and I, we both work a lot in home services, and so that's been a super
Mhm.
powerful tool for us, is putting out offers and doing lead generation where we're collecting information and our clients have it down to a T what that follow-up process looks like. And what's really cool
Mhm.
about these leads is we can dump these leads right into a Google Sheet for them. We can send an automatic email
Yeah.
to their customer service team. That way they can follow up right away, because we live in a world of
Mhm.
instant gratification. But
Yes.
taking it even a step further, we can dump it right into their CRM system. So not only is that helpful for their team, but then us, we can see, hey, we spent $200 in ad spend this month. Here are the people that came in. Here's what we got back. It's a lot more
Yes.
trackable than ultimately what you
Yes.
would get by clicking boost post, right? So that's a little bit more of
Mhm.
the extreme of, yes, those are some additional steps, but look at how much more information you're gaining with your marketing
Yes,
dollars.
you're able to actually track the return rather
Right,
than saying, "Oh, this post reached this many people, but I have no way of knowing how many of
yeah,
those customers or people that saw it, if any, turned into customers," right? And
right,
I think
right,
another thing that's key is Alex was mentioning, that brand awareness and kind of that colder audience. But this audience that he's utilizing for these lead generation campaigns and ultimately like making this offer, like he mentioned, are folks that are in that friend or already maybe one-time customer kind of range. They
yeah,
already know us and know and recognize the brand, and they already like us. But we need to get them to actually trust by converting into that customer. And so these offers they're much more likely to actually give us that information with this offer than they were before, because that relationship's already been nurtured. And so his audience
absolutely.
that he's utilizing here, I mean, it includes people that have visited the website, customer lists, people who have engaged, people who already like the page, right? Like we're not going after a cold audience when we're pushing out this offer, right? Like
Right, right.
it's very tailored for people who are already like warmer, right? Or like in
Yes.
that next stage of the natural progression.
Exactly, exactly. So, lead generation as a whole are, I would say some of the top campaigns that I have running right now have to be lead generation, just because you can see like, hey, look, I spent $100 in the last week, I got 10 leads back on this, and like I know that my customer
Yeah.
service team, they're booking at least 50% of those, right? So you can
Yeah.
just, it's a lot more trackable, it's a lot more easy to see. Like, hey, it's pretty cool because I spent this amount, and I know that we're getting 10 times that in return, right? Versus like
Yeah.
what you said, putting your brand out there, and not really knowing what's coming back. So
Yeah. And I loved in your email, I do want to come back and talk about, another campaign if you've got one, but I
yeah,
loved in
yeah,
your email, you were talking about the difference between like Boost Post is like getting a freezer meal basically at the grocery
right, yeah,
store.
yeah,
But ads manager is more like you went to the farmer's market or the butcher and you got like a great filet mignon and you're like cooking all of this from scratch and at home. Like you get what
right,
you pay for in many ways.
definitely,
Like
yeah,
the freezer meal is the Boost Post button. Like it's like it fills
hmm,
a hole. You're not really
yeah,
hungry anymore after you've had it. Like it does the job. It
yep,
pushes your information out there, but it wasn't great. Like it didn't produce
yeah,
great results. Like the meal
yep,
itself was not top tier quality. Whereas, if we go and get a fresh cut filet mignon from the butcher and then we go to the farmer's market and we
right,
get our fresh veggies and stuff, like, and we cook that, it might take a little bit more work or a little bit more effort,
hmm,
right? But the
exactly,
quality is much better and the food itself, like it tastes much better, just like the results that we're going to see back from actually going out into ads manager, building out those custom audiences, delivering our ads from there. Like the trackability that you're talking about with the lead generation form that really can only be found when we take the time to go into ads manager and
yeah.
do things really the right way, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. No, absolutely. When in doubt, relate it to food. It's a little bit easier to digest.
100%. Yes. Yeah.
But yeah, no, it's the analogy of like, yeah, the band-aid versus stitches. The band-aid, you're covering it up, it's doing its job, but the stitches
Yeah.
is like, hey, it's gonna take some more time, but end result, you are in a much better spot. So
Yeah. For
yeah.
sure. For sure. All right, y'all. We have covered quite a bit today. Wait, did you have another campaign you wanted to share?
Oh yeah, let's do it. So within home
Yeah.
services, I always like to talk about the offer that you put out. I think a lot of people like to do whatever quick and easy offer is out there, which is not a bad thing, but
Mm,
I always like to think in terms of the return on investment. So if you
yeah.
have, for example, like, hey, we're going to do $10 off of a roofing repair, $10
Hmm.
off of a shingle repair, that's not the most
Hmm.
sexy in the world, right? Like we have to
No.
we have to get a lot of leads back in order to make our money back there. But if we say,
Yeah.
hey, we're offering 0% interest and $1,000 off of a whole new roof, yes, that is a lot more intimidating for the client to actually follow up on. But when you think about it as
Hmm.
an offer, scrolling through social media, that's going to make me stop and look at that a little bit more than $10 off of a single repair or something like that, right? So I always like to think about it in terms of what does the return look like? So with a lot of our home
Yeah.
services clients, that's been my focus, is focusing a little bit more on some of these bigger offers. Let's go after the folks that have engaged with our content because they know who we are. But ultimately, as long as our customer service team is ready to act on these folks, we know that we can get that return back. So we've done a lot of financing, a lot
Yeah.
of 0%. Some of those bigger offers on new AC units, new furnaces, new water heaters, things
Hmm.
like that. It's a bigger price tag. It's a little bit of a tougher sell, but all we need is one of those to convert a
Yep.
month, and we get our money back plus more, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So as long as we're doing our job on the follow up process, we know we're making our money back in a lot more. Versus if we have a smaller
Yeah.
repair, a smaller offer, we have to sell a lot of those in order to get our money back.
Yeah. That's such a great point. Yes. I'm actually planning to have that conversation with the client today. Um, because it's exactly that. How much is the average repair cost? You
Right.
know, and doing the backwards math of like, so how many of those will we need in a given month? How many leads are we currently generating right now? What's the conversion rate on those? And if sometimes we come to find that this offer is actually not the offer that we need to be running with. We need to be looking at those more
Right.
higher ticket offers and working on honing in on that and converting those customers. And the follow up is crucial to all of this. I mean, really,
Yeah.
to any of your marketing, follow up is everything. It's everything.
Definitely.
Like if a
Yeah.
customer does not hear from you within one business day or same business day, I mean, you're already like the likelihood of actually converting that person is already feels like it's going down with every single hour that passes from the time that that person fills out the form or goes on your website, clicks your contact form, calls your office, whatever it may be, and you're not following up, the likelihood of that person actually converting is down. Surely there's some
Yep.
sort of statistic out there around that, but it's so true. Like you mentioned earlier, we live in this world of instant gratification. And so making sure that your follow-up processes, whether someone is coming in to your business from social or from web or referral or whatever it may be, making sure that those are really, really tightened up and you have quick
Yep.
turnarounds as far as, hey, at least getting like a confirmation text or a confirmation email
Yeah.
or calling
Yep.
and telling them, hey, I'm not going to be able to dive into everything with you right now, but I just wanted to give you a ring and say, hey, thanks so much for reaching out. And here's when you can
Exactly.
expect to hear from me by, like just
Yep.
that
Yep.
courtesy, I think is crucial in today's age with selling essentially.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. No, I
cool.
always like to use the example of when we moved into our house. I was going to get 4 quotes for grass seed for our yard. And I went on to 4
Yep.
landscaping websites, filled out the little information form on the website. I heard from one company within the first 3 days. The other 3, 2 of them never got back to me. One of them got back to me like a week later and basically said like, "Hey, we'll call you when we can." I bet you can guess who we ended up going with. But it was somebody
Yep.
who reached out to me within the hour, and they gave that exact response. "Hey, look, we're kind of swamped right now. Can I give you a call tomorrow? Like, I just want to acknowledge that I got your information, and like, we
Yeah.
definitely want to be able to help you out." It's all I needed,
Yeah.
and they got my business.
Yep.
So, yeah,
Yep. I love that. All right, y'all. We've talked about a lot today. We've talked about the difference between that very tempting boost post button and how it essentially just gets your information out there, but it's not actually working for you to achieve the goal that your business is after. So we've talked about the importance of using Ads Manager, which allows you to select very specific objectives based on what your company is trying to achieve. You're able to build out some really crucial custom audiences. Alex mentioned audiences like a group of people or an audience of folks who have already been engaging with your posts, with your ads, with your page, a group of people who have watched a particular video or all of your videos, or lookalike audiences, the ability to then go and find people who look like the folks that are already engaging with your content, watching your videos, visiting your website, or people that are already on your customer list, which spoiler alert, you can, if you're catching the end of this, I guess, spoiler alert, you can actually upload to Meta Ads Manager as well. Then we dove into some key campaigns that Alex is seeing a lot of success with. So, especially if you're targeting those strangers who you're working on converting into friends to know and like your brand, focusing on objectives like traffic, brand awareness, reach, or engagement. Those are going to be the ways that we can first kind of get in front of those folks. Because, like I mentioned, it takes 11 times for someone to see your brand before you are actually their first choice or they're becoming a customer of yours. So making sure you're keeping those touches high and frequent and using multiple methods too. Again, not to dive into that too much, but making sure you're not just putting all of your eggs in the social media basket, but you're showing up in multiple places too. So then we talked about types of campaigns. Oh, sorry. We talked about that type of campaign, but then we talked about lead generation. And then really more specifically focusing on the offers that we're curating for those folks, making sure they actually have a really good return and that they're enticing enough to make someone want to take action who's already in that friend zone of people who are already engaging and know and like us, trying to get them to actually convert into someone who trusts us, is a paying customer, so that they'll eventually turn into an evangelist for our business and rant and rave to all their friends and family.
yep.
So it's been jam-packed here today. Guys, we're already at almost 40 minutes in. So, real quick, Alex, thank you so much for coming on the show
Yeah,
today.
absolutely.
Just on a personal or like a fun note, I like to end every show with what is one thing that you are looking forward to this year?
Whew. I mean, a lot of good stuff. I feel like my cop out answer would be obviously the Detroit Lions season starting here in about 3-4 weeks. But outside of
Yes.
that, no, I think a couple big weddings. My best friend's getting married here in like 2 weeks. My sister's getting married next month. So a lot of
Yeah.
bigger life events around our friends and family. So really looking forward to some of that stuff.
I love that so much. I was
Yeah.
watching Hard Knocks last night. For those of you who
And
are NFL fans or HBO subscribers, I suppose. Hard Knocks is on. It was episode 2 with the Bears. Interesting. Interesting. We'll
Yeah.
see. We'll see how the season progresses.
Yep.
I'm not sold on
Yep.
the Bears, but we'll see how it goes.
Yeah, no, neither am I. Neither am I. Not at all.
Yeah.
I hope they stink, but whatever. Yep.
Yeah. Someone's got to be at the bottom. Might as well be the Bears. I can't even talk. I'm a Saints fan. So, I mean, we didn't even get picked. We're the bottom of the barrel to be featured on Hard Knocks, and we can't even get picked. So, it's fine. But anyways, y'all, thank you so much for tuning in today to Coffee Chats for the special edition, kind of lunchtime edition for those of you who maybe usually can't tune in. But several of you pop in and tune in live. But excited to be back again next week with another live edition of Coffee Chat. It's going to be another really great episode. Alex, thank you again for tuning in, for joining us today, for sharing all of your wisdom on Boost Post versus Ad Manager. Again, this has been a jam-packed full episode. And thank you again, all viewers, live, catching replay, caught us here at the end, and going to go back and watch the beginning of the show. We really appreciate you being with us today. Catch us again next week live on Wednesday, our regularly scheduled time, Wednesday at 10 a.m. Central, 11 a.m. Eastern for another edition of Coffee Chats. Thanks so much, guys. We'll catch you next time.
Awesome. Thanks, guys.